Hi, I'm Thomas, and today I would like to give you a quick excerpt of one of my workshops I'm doing already for many years. It's the UX and design workshop. I also do product strategy workshops. And yeah, so this is one of the most favorite parts. It's the 10 signs of a good UI. So this is basically a checklist for you and your team to go through and see if you are aligned with best practices from UX. So it's based on the work of Don Norman and Jakob Nielsen, which are doing the UX heuristics already, I think, since the 90s or end of 90s. And the nice thing is I'm doing the workshops for many, many years, and they are still valid because they are based on how humans work, how our mechanisms work, and how our brains are wired. And that's why they are timeless. I really love them, and you can basically use it as a kind of like an expert checklist. And it really works pretty well if you're really on a budget and have to execute fast. It's not an excuse to not do user testing, but I just want to say, like, before you do user testing, this is something you can just go through yourself and double check, kind of like an expert review. Okay, enough of me talking. These are 10 signs of a good UI. Number 1, give feedback. Is appropriate feedback given at the right time? And there are some examples like you subscribe to a newsletter or you send in a message. Bam, little pop-up, little message, little toast, whatever. Just give the people the right feedback so they know that the message was sent. Or if I click download, and then I see, for example, a pop-up or however, something where I see, okay, the file is downloading, I see the file name, I see how long it takes, in best case, the whole progress. So I feel control in what I'm doing here. Or if I fill out the name and it double checks my email, or that this is the right email, or this is like a more or less proper name, we can have a longer discussion about password inputs. I'm personally not a fan of it, to regulate people how they give their password, what kind of like password they use. Still, it would be good, at least if you have some certain things like, okay, please not make password your password. You can raise a flag here, and in best case you do it like with live validation, so you see it on the fly what I'm doing, if this is proper input or not. Speak the user's language. Does the system use words, metaphors, and concepts similar to those in the user's world? Like when Spotify actually came up, they were just kind of like using or reusing models Apple already established with their iTunes model. For example, you have content, you have music, and the things you have in your own, all the media is in your library. And if you want more, you go to a store and then you buy it in the store. It's all virtual, it's all digital, but still mental models and concepts from the real world are reused in order to make it a little bit easier for you to get into. And then Spotify didn't reinvent the wheel. They even put something on top. They also introduced radio. So it kind of works like radio, but without the moderator. But still, it's the same mental model. You just play a song after a song after a song, and the nice thing, it's kind of like radio 2.0. So it's radio only made for you. So it's based on a specific artist, it's based on a specific taste, and then just music runs through. Then we have browsing, like the idea of like riding the wave, right? So I look into some music like jazz, and then I see like contemporary jazz or classic jazz, and then I just browse through all the different kinds of albums and artists, and just discover music on the fly. Just kind of like browsing the kind of like hip surfer style of doing it. And then there's also playlists, right? Playlists is from the old jukeboxes. So you could have all the little LPs in there and then reuse it and kind of like create a playlist for you and stack all the LPs in a specific order so that you play it in a specific order. So these are all mental models you have and you know from different kind of concepts you're familiar with. And it's super nice to actually pick them up and reuse them. Similar to programming, for example. In programming, you can reuse the idea of wiring things together, like how logics work. So that's kind of like the visual node-based coding approach, which is used here. It's similar to the 70s, 80s synthesizers when they were kind of like using cables to wire effects together. Number 3, give control and freedom. Where am I? Where did I come from? Where can I go? Is it easy to undo actions? Like very simple, basic things. As good as Spotify is in the whole metaphor thing, it's kind of like not as ideal in the whole where am I right now? Where did I come from and where can I go next? Because all of these animations, you're not really 100% sure where you're coming from. But there are nice examples like Trivago, for example. At Trivago, you added that you can filter, for example, all the searches you can find there, the hotels they show you. You see what you can do. You see where you're coming from. You see where you could go next. So if you click somewhere else, then you're out again. So it gives you ultimate feeling of control, right? But still you have some freedom. Same with like Apple. Apple numbers. You can see what kind of like equation or how the equation looks like and how this equation plays together and where are the fields where the amounts are coming from. It's a slide overlay, so you can always click and get out of it. And you see what you can do, where you're coming from. You can always undo things, for sure. For Dropbox, you see the folder structure. The folder structure can be really complex. So if it's too complex, then they branch you out. So you always see the current folder and the folders where you're coming from in a list. Or classic breadcrumb. You see where I'm currently where I'm coming from. This is more like a hierarchical way of viewing things. Number 4, be consistent and use platform standards. One of my favorites. Do the same things always, and do they always work the same in each system? For example, inside the system, you have a consistency throughout Apple products. So no matter if it's Keynote, no matter if it's Pages, no matter if it's Numbers, you always have a specific set of actions which are similar and they look similar and they are also placed similar. You always find everything around editing and customizing on the right, format, animate, and document settings. Everything around viewing, like zooming in, getting some new sidebars or not, it's on the left, and everything kind of actions like text and content is in the middle. And it always works the same across the product suite. It can also be triggered or the consistency around an action. So if I copy something or if I move a file to somewhere, it's a similar action and it also should look and feel similar. For example, in Dropbox, you have the copy file too. So it takes something and then creates a copy and moves it to somewhere, or you just take the original file and move it somewhere. It feels and looks similar, and that's good because you don't confuse people with different kinds of things that they work differently if it's the same thing basically, or similar thing. And again, if Gmail came and introduced a new tool for cloud email basically, they copied known platform standards which were already established from Outlook, one of the main tools everyone knows. So they still have this thing of an inbox. The inbox is where all your emails go. You have drafts. So if you start writing an email and you didn't finish, it goes to the drafts. They have it the same. They also have all your sent emails. What they added is this idea of like start emails. Or you can also mark emails as very important, or kind of like the AI knows what's probably important for you because you write a lot of emails with this person. So this is all kind of like on top, but still they are not questioning the main standard which is given there. Help prevent errors. Number 5, does the system permit as few errors as possible? We're all just humans and we make mistakes, right? For example, if I post on LinkedIn, the button just starts rotating because maybe I double click. For example, my mom, she double clicks everything. If you double click, then the button is just not usable for this amount of time, right? So they prevent you from like posting 2 times or 3 times. WordPress, very nice example. You can publish an article or you can move this article to trash. The different design with the button and just the link, also the color is completely different. They also placed it very much apart from it, like publishing and moving to trash. Very clear distinction. So you never, or in very rare cases, if you're like super drunk, maybe you accidentally click move to trash. But even trash is a very nice example for preventing errors because it goes to the trash bin. It's not permanently deleted. And it depends on what the task is. If it's writing an article where you can spend easily like many hours, it can really hurt if you don't have a trash bin. If it's just a very small task where it doesn't hurt to maybe do it again, you can just delete it directly. You don't need to ask like, really need to delete? But for this kind of tasks, what you have to do there, a trash bin itself is a very good error prevention system. Or at Google, when you type something like autocorrect, you start typing UI designer and then you kind of like have a typo. It corrects you. And it prevents an error. So you don't press enter. So it already gives you ideas of like what you could probably mean and fills it out for you correctly. Number 6, support recognition instead of memory. Does the system take the cognitive load of the user? So one thing I had was for many years in the past that Photoshop, for example, when you wanted to select the text, you had just a list of all the fonts there. And you wanted to select the font. And how Apple did it is that she actually showed a font in the type of the font. So you know actually if I'm searching for, I need some like playful font or I need some font which has this little serifs. But I don't know how the fonts look like, except I'm a typographic design nerd. So they really help you here to get the proper look what you actually need if they when they preview it. So you don't need to remember, wow, how does ratio font look like? How did circular look like, or whatever? Or for example at Google, if I type in where I want to go or where was my flight, I was like, where was the terminal of the flight, right? And I wanted to search at Google actually. Where's the terminal I need to depart at Düsseldorf Airport. And what they do is actually smarty pants. They know that actually through Gmail that I booked the flight there and they present me the information there. The tricky thing is it can be a little bit creepy because it was not expected. So I felt a little bit like spied. So there's a fine line between supporting and supporting a little bit too much so that it's a little bit like, but maybe I didn't want to know that you know. But still, it was supportive and helpful. Or through an animation, right? Like you can see where you want to book a flight, where I want to place my seat. So I could just have a list like an Excel sheet, or I show the actual plane and the seats and I see where the windows are and I see where the wings are, and then I can place myself at a nice seat where still a lot of space for me. And this really helps me to get some cognitive load off me as of the user. Number 7, be flexible and efficient. Can all users groups optimally use the system? For example, if I'm an expert user, if you're like an expert in Sketch, you have shortcuts. Shortcuts is the best thing for every expert user. If you are using the system like at least 4 or 5 hours a day, then shortcuts are your thing. You can become very, very fast. Or at Apple Numbers, they just place the most used actions already there for you, like the sum of something, average value of something. So you just select the column or the row, and then it already presents you the most used functionalities. Or if I'm an expert user, if I'm a professional photographer and I'm using Photoshop, then I can arrange all my windows in a way how they fit to my working style. That's like expert features for people who use it like almost every day. So you can make it your own if you need to, but be careful. You have to look at your usage. You have to look at the tasks at your user group if this makes sense or not. Be clear and unambiguous. Is every piece of information in the system really necessary? So that's more like the minimalistic approach. So, for example, if I look here at the settings menu, I have a clear distinction between account settings and notifications. 2 icons, a line there, clear separation. This is everything about account. This is everything about notifications. I can also see it that they have different kinds of toggle buttons and notifications. So this pops out. And then it's very clear on top that I can change my password, change the language, change the country. So this is how I know it, how I expect it. And then I can drill deeper. But overall, it's all settings. So it's a very clear and straightforward way. And then underneath, you can log out. It's a different style. It's a button. It's different from everything on there. Or if you look at the whole UI. So this is actually quite complex. This is a hotel booking system. Still, they managed to reduce complexity by grouping chunks of information to a 7 plus minus 2 amount and size, which actually helps you to grasp and hold information, because our brains are limited in capacity at some point. So you have to group chunks of information. And in best case 3 or 5 groups of chunks. You can count the chunks here. For example, this whole thing is one information chunk because this is the whole table. Here on top, it's number 2. You have the manager and some dates and some stuff where you can filter. Probably. Oh no, here you can filter, but this is like additional settings here. So that's number 2. Then you have the logo, and on the left side it's like information chunk number 3 or 4, where you have a dashboard, the menu where you can select things. And then it's like information chunk number 5, where you have an infographic of how many rooms are actually booked over the course of the days or month. So you take the information and you group it accordingly. Place some white space in between. So like, okay, this is top left, this is top right, this is in the center, and in the center of a UI should always be the most important data you need as a user. Number 9, be helpful in case of a problem. Do messages help me with the solution? I showed you nice examples, but now it's also a bad example. What I see is like people saying like, oh no, or oh snap, that was a mistake. In best case, make it red and things like this. No, this is an error. Please behave accordingly in the system. So this is an emergency. Something went wrong and you are basically the doctor. Imagine a doctor being there in an emergency and is like hopping around like, oh no, oh, everything is bad. No, stay calm. Something went wrong. Say like, okay, we have trouble with the site. Explain clearly what's going on. Maybe give some help and support, which you can do next. Or in the case of like, for example, this was from Firefox, if the website is not loading, or in LinkedIn, you apply too many search filters, suddenly you cannot find something. So, well, your search returned no results. Try removing filters to rephrasing your search. Maybe you clear all your filters. So it already, in best case, provide you an action how to get out of the problem. There's also a nice website called Voice and Tone. It's part of the MailChimp guidelines where they explain how we should actually talk to people in the system. And number 10, last point, support if help is needed. So in best case, a UI is like a joke. If you need to explain it, it's bad. But there can be complicated things here and there. So there can be a complex problem and there can be a complicated problem. And the UI can be complex, but in best case, you reduce it. This is what I was talking before, like minimalistic approach, information chunks and so on. And then it's complicated. For example, how's the price calculated here? I don't know. Then you can provide a tooltip, for example, where I give a little bit more of an explanation. Or something changed in your UI. So you say like, well, things moved. Things work like this now. Okay, I got it. So you can provide some overlay. Maybe it makes sense to provide a little 1-minute video. Maybe it makes sense to, if people come, show them in a changelog the latest changes, like, and this is how this works, and this is how this works. And in best case, provide a little animation where people can see how this thing is supposed to work now, if you really want to be super crystal clear how things work. So you can provide little pieces of help in the system whenever you think it's needed. Okay, that's it. You can use this sheet here as an overview, and it's basically kind of like a checklist. Whenever you work on redesigning your system or working on a new system, you can go through the checklist before you actually do some user testing, because maybe you can find some problems yourself. Just take 2 or 3 of your colleagues, let them run through your prototype, your mock-up, or the live prototype, and double check if the feedback is appropriate, if it gives feedback at the right time, if it speaks the user's language, if it gives control and freedom, if it's consistent in user's platform standards, if it helps to prevent errors, if it supports recognition instead of memory, if it's flexible and efficient, if it's clear and unambiguous, if it's helpful in case of a problem, and if it supports you if help is needed. And these are basically the 10 characteristics of a good UI. My name is Thomas. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you like it and if you want to do more things like that, and also more things about product strategy and design strategy and everything, I'm more than happy to give an in-house workshop for you. Enough of shameless self-promotion. That's it. Thank you and take care.